take me back to August. Talk about your team and what you were visioning for your team, how your team was preparing for the season.
When you look at what we had coming in preseason, we weren't quite sure what grouping we were going to be in. We were Group 2 last year. We were Group 1 the year before that. So we weren't quite sure where we were going to shake out as far as groupings for playoffs. There's a lot of positive buzz coming into the season. We had some good returning players, some players that are big impact players for us. But we also knew we had a lot of young players coming in. And anytime you have young players, you're going to have some growing pains. And so we kind of knew that this was a season that could go one of two ways. We're either going to be very successful or we're going to have some growing pains. And, as any program has to weather some storms, this was one of those years. We had been in that spot before. We knew what we had when the team was healthy. Unfortunately, after the second game, a lot of our kids got banged up. We started losing kids to concussions and other injuries. And that 4-game slide was a combination of playing in some really crappy weather, which really hindered us, and losing some key players, especially defensively. And you take away those injuries, and we're a different ball team. And if we had played Gloucester on a dry field, and had we had kids not get hurt during that game, which was my big fear, was why I didn't want to play it in the rain. The next two games against Woodstown and Camden probably have a different outcome, especially the Woodstown game would have a different outcome. The one thing that we knew we could play with anybody. I mean, we proved that with a team like Camden has just a wealth of talent in Division I athletes. It was 7-7 at halftime, and it wasn't for a bad snap and an interception. It's a much closer game than the score indicates. But when you look at that stretch, we lost to Gloucester by 6 points. We lost to Woodstown by 4 points. We lost to Camden by 18 points. And we lost to Bishop Eustace. And you look at all those games, we were winning at halftime against Gloucester. We were winning at halftime against Woodstown. We were tied at halftime against Camden, and we were beating Bishop Eustace until the fourth quarter. So we knew that the parts were there, and once everything kind of clicked, we knew we would have a little bit of success. And fortunately, come the Pennsgrove game, that was the first time since the first game of the season we had the majority of our kids back that were injured, and we were actually playing with almost a full roster of kids. And those two games at the end, Pennsgrove and the Salem playoff games, it showed when we had what we could do. It was very simple. We were as healthy as we could be. In the first game, we lost one of our best players on the 8th play of the game, and our kids really couldn't respond after that. It was kind of like a culture shock. So we had some kids that had no battle experience were then thrust into playing, and by the time we played Salem the second time, they were battle hardened. And it's very difficult to beat a good team, whether their record indicates them being good or not, twice. And Salem found that out. That and the one thing about Glassboro football is we get better as the season goes on, generally. And you learn from mistakes. They had a young coach who was his first year, and sometimes a more experienced coach tends to kind of look past that, and you don't look past it a second time. After we beat Salem, we were playing with a lot of confidence at that point, and there was definitely that sense of here we go again. In fact, every major newspaper reporter that reports South Jersey decided to then jinx me and say that and call me and write me text messages and then write articles about my kids saying that here we go again, Glassboro's at it again. Fellow coaches were calling me up going, you snuck in the playoffs, look what you did, here you go again. And unfortunately, that kind of took the attention off of the game and kind of put it more of the focus where I didn't want it to be. And did I have a sense that we could do it again? Yes. Was that team the same team that was in 2013? No. 2013 was loaded with Division I athletes. That we were 3-5 that year because we had kids that were very similar in terms of they were injured, and we had an issue at quarterback. But once that was straightened out, we won 5 games, and no one touched us at that point. This team was a different team. It didn't have those dynamic players that team had, but we could have definitely capitalized a little bit better than what we did. But unfortunately, in the semifinal game, it didn't happen. Trying to overcome these injuries and overcome some of the bitterness that takes place when you start to lose. When you're a program that's used to winning, everybody's on your side. Everyone's happy to be out of practice. When you start to lose, and all of a sudden, kids start to kind of shy away and start to kind of hang in the corner because they're so used to winning, and winning comes so naturally when you're at Glassboro. And the same problem. That's a double-edged sword because they don't know how to accept any kind of adversity. I'm talking more on the younger aspect. The starters and so forth kind of don't have that. They're battle hardened. It's a little bit different for them. They still have a goal and a mindset that when you're a kid who's a freshman or a sophomore that's not really playing, you kind of lose focus, when you start to lose. But that's kind of one of the things that you have to really overcome was those injuries and that kind of sour attitude, so to speak. And we dealt with it accordingly. We threw some kids off the team. We told some kids not to, they came to practice the next day and saw that their lockers were cleaned out, and that's how we deal with things. I mean, we don't really put up with any kind of, poor attitude or cancerous attitude when it comes to our team. And if I have to go out there with 11 kids, then I go out there with 11 kids, and I'm going to be successful one way or the other. I'm going to miss being around them, especially there's a core group of about 7, 8 of them that I have a very tight relationship with. When you're a young coach, you tend to have a different relationship with your players than if you're an older coach. And I have a very close relationship with my seniors, and always have. I've always built a good relationship. We go out, I'll take them out once every probably week and a half. We'll go get wings as a senior group, and it's a good way to keep a pulse on the team and let you know how, as a coach, what your team is thinking. So, those experiences and those good times that we have together, those are things I'm going to miss. I miss it every year. But, the one advantage is there's another group of seniors coming up that will share that experience, next year. I will miss some of these kids who have been 3- and 4-year starters for me, who have been, with me through a lot of good games and been with me through a lot of bad games. So I'm going to miss that seasonedness that they had. But again, with every new year is a new opportunity and another group of seniors.